My name is Jean. I'm standing in the backyard of my small house, surrounded by the chaos and joy of my nephew's third birthday party. The air is filled with laughter, the sound of water balloons popping, and the distant hum of music from a phone speaker. But right now, the yard has fallen silent, and all eyes are on my parents as they stand, stunned, in front of my sister, her partner, and their son. It all started 3 years ago when my sister, Lily, called me one stormy Wednesday night. The rain was pounding against the windows of my apartment, and her voice came through the phone in broken pieces, choked with sobs. I didn't need to hear the whole story. I opened the door to find her standing on the porch, soaked to the bone, holding a backpack in one hand and an ultrasound photo in the other. Her mascara was running down her cheeks, and she looked like a ghost of herself. Without a word, I pulled her inside, got her a towel, and put the kettle on. She sat on the couch, pressing the ultrasound photo against her knee, her hands shaking. "Dad said I'm no daughter of his," she managed to say. Mom opened the door and told me to get out. I looked at my sister, 22 years old and 17 weeks pregnant, sitting on my second-hand couch in wet jeans. I had seen my parents be strict, but I had never seen them turn their backs on their own child. "You're staying here," I told her. It wasn't a question. Our family, the Andersons, was well known in our town. We were members of the community church, and my father, Robert, was a respected elder. My mother, Elizabeth, was actively involved in the church's charity work. They were always concerned about appearances, about what the community thought of us. There was an unspoken rule in our house: image over truth, appearance over feeling. Lily was the creative one, the free spirit. She loved art and music, and she had a way of lighting up a room with her smile. I, on the other hand, was the responsible one. I had a degree in nursing and was working at the local hospital. I was quiet, reliable, and often overlooked. Lily had been dating someone in secret for over a year. She never told me who he was, and I never asked. I knew she had her reasons. But when she announced her pregnancy at a family dinner, everything changed. My father stood up, so fast his chair hit the wall. His face turned red with anger, and he shouted, "You're no daughter of mine." My mother, more composed but no less cold, folded her napkin, stood up, and walked to the door. She pointed outside and said, "Get out of my house." I tried to reason with them, but it was no use. They were determined to protect their reputation, to avoid the scandal of an unplanned pregnancy. So Lily and I left that night, and I took her in. The next morning, my mother called. Her voice was calm, rehearsed. "Bring her back to apologize, and we can talk about this like adults," she said. I told her Lily had nothing to apologize for. She threatened to cut me off too, but I didn't care. I was done pretending. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I was already working long hours at the hospital, and now I had to take care of Lily and the baby on the way. I called my supervisor and asked for extra shifts. She said yes, without hesitation. I was grateful for her support. The first few months were tough. Lily was sick all the time, and I was exhausted. We didn't talk about our parents, and she still wouldn't tell me who the father was. But we got through it, day by day. As the months passed, I started to notice changes in the town's attitude. People were starting to see what my parents had done, and they didn't like it. At the hospital, patients would ask me about Lily and the baby, and they would tell me they thought my parents were in the wrong. One day, I found a letter in Lily's nightstand drawer. It was addressed to a man named Alexander. As I read it, my heart sank. Lily had been in love with Alexander for years, but his father, the pastor of our church, had forbidden them to be together. When Alexander got a scholarship to study abroad, his father deleted Lily's number from his phone and told him she had moved on. Lily discovered she was pregnant 2 months after he left. She wrote the letter but never sent it, afraid of what would happen if his father found out. She was protecting him, even though it meant sacrificing her own happiness. I knew I had to find Alexander. I started searching online and found his profile on LinkedIn. He was a structural engineer working in a firm in France. I sent him a message, telling him about Lily and the baby. At first, he didn't respond. I was worried he wouldn't believe me. But then, I added a line. "It's about a child." Within hours, he called me. I told him everything, and he was shocked. He said he had tried to contact Lily after he left, but his father had lied to him. He promised to come home. 6 weeks later, I picked Alexander up from the airport. He was quiet on the way back, his eyes fixed on the window. He looked like a man on a mission. When we pulled up to my apartment, Lily was standing in the doorway with a baby in her arms. The baby, a little boy named Oliver, had Alexander's curly brown hair and his strong jaw. Alexander got out of the car and walked towards them. He knelt down in front of Lily and Oliver, and tears streamed down his face. They held each other, and in that moment, I knew everything was going to be okay. Over the next few months, Alexander and Lily worked on rebuilding their relationship. They went to counseling, and slowly, they started to trust each other again. Alexander got a job at a local construction firm, and they moved into a small apartment together. But just when things seemed to be looking up, my parents decided to make an appearance. 3 months before Oliver's 3rd birthday, my aunt, Sarah, called me. "Your parents miss you," she said. I knew it wasn't that simple. They were only interested in the baby now that the scandal had a happy ending. I told my mother she could come to the party, but only on our terms. She had to apologize, and she couldn't bring the pastor. She agreed, but I could tell she wasn't happy about it. And now, here we are at the party. My parents stand in the yard, looking out of place. Oliver runs up to me and asks, "Auntie Jean, who are those people?" I tell him they're his grandparents, and he looks at them with a curious expression. Then, Alexander walks through the gate, carrying a gift for Oliver. Oliver sees him and runs towards him, shouting, "Daddy!" Alexander picks him up, and my father's eyes widen in shock. "That's the pastor's son," he whispers. My mother's face goes pale. She looks at me, her eyes filled with questions. "Yes," I say. "He's Oliver's father. He's been here for a year, and he's been a wonderful father." The yard falls silent as my parents try to process what they're hearing. My mother starts to cry, and my father looks away, ashamed. Lily steps forward, holding Alexander's hand. "Mom, Dad, this is Alexander. He's Oliver's father, the man you never let me introduce." My mother tries to make excuses, but Lily doesn't let her. "You're so worried about your reputation that you threw me out when I needed you the most. I gave birth in a hospital room alone, and you didn't even call." My father tries to defend himself, but his words ring hollow. "We were just trying to do what was best for the family," he says. Lily shakes her head. "No, you were trying to protect your image. You didn't care about me or Oliver." The pastor, who had followed my parents to the party, steps forward. "Son, let's go. This is not the place." Alexander looks at him, his eyes filled with anger. "This is exactly the place. This is my son's birthday party, and you're at your grandson's party, Dad. You've been preaching about sin from the pulpit while your own son was in love with my sister. You lied to me to keep us apart." The pastor's face turns red. "I did what I thought was right." Alexander shakes his head. "You did what was easy. You didn't want to deal with the truth." The pastor's wife, who had also come to the party, looks at her husband in disbelief. She had no idea about the lies he had told. I step forward and say, "Lily had a letter she never sent. She wrote Oliver's name before he was even born while you were preaching about consequences. She was choosing to protect your son." The party falls into a stunned silence. The pastor turns and walks away, his head down. His wife stays behind, walking over to Oliver and kneeling down. "Hello, sweetheart. I'm your other grandmother." My mother looks at Lily and asks, "Can I hold him?" Lily looks at me, and I nod. My mother picks up Oliver, but he squirms in her arms. "Mommy," he says, reaching for Lily. My mother hands him back, tears in her eyes. "He has his father's eyes," she says. I correct her. "He has Alexander's eyes." My father takes my mother's arm. "Let's go," he says. She looks at Lily one more time, then turns and follows him to the car. After they leave, Lily exhales a long breath. "It's over," she says. Alexander wraps his arm around her, and Oliver smears cake on their shirts. Dr. Rachel, my colleague from the hospital, comes over and hands me a cup of sparkling cider. "You okay?" she asks. I smile. "I will be. Over the next few months, things started to change. Lily graduated from nursing school with honors. Alexander and Lily got married, and they moved into a bigger apartment. My parents sent a card, but they still hadn't apologized. My mother left the church's charity work and joined a different group. The pastor took a leave of absence, and the congregation started to question his leadership. On a Saturday morning in late November, I opened the cabinet above the stove and found the white ceramic casserole dish my mother had sent years ago. I ran my thumb along the chipped rim and thought about all that had happened. I put the dish in the donation box by the front door. I didn't need it anymore. I walked back to the refrigerator and looked at Oliver's latest drawing. It had 4 stick figures: Lily, Alexander, Oliver, and me. And there was a small yellow figure labeled Grandma Margaret. I laughed, a real laugh that came from deep inside. I wasn't a hero. I was just a sister, and that was enough. The people who love you don't wait for you to be perfect. They show up, and that's what matters. This is my story, a story of family, love, and the power of forgiveness. It's a story that I'll never forget, and I hope it reminds you to cherish the people who are there for you, no matter what.